What if history had taken a different turn? Imagine that Trump remained president and events unfolded in a completely different way. What consequences would this have had for America and the world? How would the economy, politics, and international relations have changed? Would the country have become even more divided? Or would the focus on traditional values have strengthened the United States? What decisions could have shaped the fate of millions? From the unexpected aftermath of the election to a possible future, let's explore this alternative reality. In 2020, the U.S. presidential election became one of the most intense and controversial in the country's history. Donald Trump, seeking re-election, faced a strong opponent in Joe Biden. Against the backdrop of the coronavirus pandemic, economic downturn, and mass protests associated with the Black Lives Matter movement, political tensions escalated daily. The election saw a record number of early and mail-in ballots, which led to numerous legal disputes. Democrats accused Trump of attempting to undermine the democratic process, while Republicans alleged possible fraud. Ultimately, the official results declared Biden the winner, but Trump's campaign launched extensive efforts to challenge the outcome through lawsuits and political pressure. Despite numerous court battles and demands for recounts in key states, the judicial system and Congress confirmed Biden's victory. However, Trump supporters refused to accept the result, leading to mass protests that culminated in the storming of the Capitol on January 6, 2021. These events laid the groundwork for a deep political and social crisis in the country. Now, let's imagine that in November 2020, Donald Trump won by a narrow margin. The election disputes ended in his favor, and the Supreme Court upheld the results, sparking outrage among opponents. Massive protests erupted across major cities, and various political movements mobilized, demanding a review of the election outcome. Demonstrations escalated into clashes with law enforcement, which was granted expanded powers to suppress unrest. The Trump administration quickly took control of the situation, introducing additional security measures. The National Guard was deployed in several states, and curfews were enforced. Social media became a battleground for debates about the future of democracy in the country, while major news outlets split into two camps. Some supported the president, asserting the legitimacy of the election, while others accused the government of usurpation. In Congress, tensions flared as Democrats pushed for impeachment, but Republicans blocked their efforts with their Senate majority. On the international stage, many countries expressed concern over the unfolding events in the U.S. European leaders called for the preservation of democratic norms, while some nations in Asia and the Middle East used the situation to advance their own propaganda. Trump issued a series of statements about restoring order and strengthening national interests, promising to make America even stronger. However, internal divisions deepened, and experts warned of long-term consequences of this crisis. Domestically, Republicans leveraged their victory to push urgent reforms that solidified their power. The Supreme Court, now with a strong conservative majority, passed rulings limiting the influence of progressive movements. Legislative changes redefined voting regulations to prevent future disputed elections. These actions further polarized society. Trump supporters viewed them as necessary for national security, while opponents saw them as authoritarian overreach. At the same time, conflicts escalated between federal authorities and individual states. Democratic-leaning regions began advocating for greater autonomy, with some governors openly resisting federal policies. Protests persisted, and some confrontations spiraled into chaos. The media continued fueling the discord, plunging America deeper into political turmoil. Following Trump's re-election, American society plunged into deep crisis. Political polarization reached unprecedented levels. Some welcomed the continuation of his policies, seeing him as a stabilizing force and a proponent of economic growth, while others perceived his re-election as a direct threat to democracy. Major cities saw an increase in protests, fueled by new voting laws and changes in minority rights. Conservative regions, on the other hand, supported the administration, viewing its decisions as fair and necessary for preserving American values. Amid rising protests, crime rates increased in several states. Some cities refused to comply with federal directives, leading to conflicts between law enforcement agencies and regional administrations. The National Guard was deployed to quell unrest, but this only deepened societal divisions. Social programs underwent significant changes. The Republican administration continued its efforts to cut public assistance, causing discontent among lower-income communities. Meanwhile, business owners and corporate executives benefited from tax breaks, bolstering their industries. Despite attempts to reform healthcare, the system became overwhelmed, particularly as social tensions escalated. Disagreements between Trump supporters and opponents led to the rise of numerous activist movements. Some advocated for stronger government control to ensure law and order, while others called for a complete political overhaul. Social media became the primary tool for political battles, prompting the administration to introduce new laws regulating online platforms. In the long run, these internal conflicts threatened to reshape American society. The question remained, could the country maintain unity, or was it on the brink of fragmentation? Following Trump's re-election, the U.S. economy faced significant challenges. Initially, markets responded positively. Tax cuts, deregulation, and business incentives led to stock market gains and corporate growth. However, the intensifying trade war with China and increasing tensions with European nations caused an economic downturn in the latter half of his term. Industries saw growth due to large-scale investments in oil, gas, and energy sectors, but tech companies struggled under new sanctions and restrictions. Traditional manufacturing jobs returned, but inflation surged, reducing consumer purchasing power. National debt soared, and the budget deficit hit record highs, even drawing criticism from Trump's allies within the Republican Party. The Federal Reserve attempted to stabilize the economy, but market instability led to a recession. The banking sector faced a wave of bankruptcies, eroding investor confidence. Despite the administration's reassurances that these were temporary setbacks, many economists warned of a prolonged financial crisis. Ultimately, Trump's economic policies resulted in short-term growth, followed by a downturn. Social tensions intensified, with some blaming government interference in the economy and others arguing that systemic flaws were to blame. Political conflicts and protests only fueled these divisions further. Alternative history allows us to view reality from a different perspective, analyzing what could have happened and its potential consequences. If Trump had won in 2020, the balance of power in the U.S. and the world would have shifted dramatically, exacerbating political conflicts and leading to unpredictable outcomes. From internal struggles to global ramifications, this scenario demonstrates how a single decision can reshape history. What do you think? Which of these events seem most plausible to you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and stay tuned for more videos.